Montgomery Community Media's 22nd annual NPO Day was created to improve the sustainability among nonprofits organizations in Montgomery County and the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. During these tough economic times, nonprofits are especially hit. However, with the internet and social media so prevalent in our society, there are opportunities to help nonprofit organizations generate revenue and get their word out to the community. Today's speaker is Jerome Leonard, who is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Taylor Leonard Corporation, an information technology and risk management consulting practice. Mr. Leonard's presentation will be on how to do effective fundraising through the use of social media.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Merlin, for having me. It's a privilege, it's an honor to be here in front of you. I know I'm the last thing before you leave here today, the last person, so I want to make sure to keep it upbeat and high energy, so I need everyone to lean forward, if that's okay. We'll try to get through this information very quickly, and before we start anything, I'd like to thank the two previous speakers because they made my job a lot easier. Would you agree the information was very valuable? Yes. Absolutely. So thanks, Richard, and thanks, Aaron. My job is to hone it all in. How many people right now are very interested in fundraising and using social media for fundraising? That's the majority of the room. So we have the right audience. I won't spend much time on this because we understand that there are three big social media platforms. That's Facebook, that's LinkedIn, that's Twitter. They're not the only ones, of course, but that's what we're going to focus on in the early part of the presentation. And then towards the end, I'm going to give you some very specific hands-on techniques and strategies for LinkedIn. So those of you who have computers, you're on the internet, I encourage you to start applying these immediately before you leave here. Is that okay? So we know that there are some critical things that we need to do on an ongoing basis, but before that is strategy. And I would venture to guess that most people in here have some kind of strategy. Whether it's documented or not, you know what you want to accomplish, whether it's more members, whether it's to build your brand, or to gain more fundraising. We're going to help you focus in on that. A little bit about my background. Tony mentioned that I've been doing the social CRM, Customer Relationship Management. That's what CRM stands for. How many people are familiar with CRM? Or Member Relationship Management or Donor Relationship Management. All of that translates to the same thing, relationships with people we care about in our organization, and we have an ongoing relationship with them. That's what I've been doing around the globe, in the United States, in the UK, South America, and Australia for some very recognizable organizations, Marriott, Montgomery County, Fannie Mae, just to name a few. So I won't spend much time on this because, as I said, the previous presenters, they brought you up to speed on what the basics are for each of these platforms. But what we do need to understand is about our buyer. And in non-profit organizations, we may call that buyer something differently, right? Something like a member or a donor. Am I correct? What we need to understand is today our buyers truly are starting their process of evaluation on the internet. In case you missed that during the first two presentations, I want to be the one that drills it home. Absolutely, that's where they are. And so, Richard mentioned that's where we need to be. It's not about driving people to our website. It's about going where they are. And this slide right here talks about the internet being a decision engine. And if we are interested in establishing relationships with what we call affluence, people who are making $200,000, $500,000 or more in annual income, or perhaps organizations that have that kind of funding already earmarked to donate to our entity. Those are the people that we want to communicate with, and they're spending daily time on the internet. That's not a surprise, is it? But when we talk about what are they doing in the decision-making process, that's where I think most nonprofits are missing it, and where they need to get a little bit more intelligence and then apply that intelligence into daily activities. So that's going to be our focus, is how to drive that on LinkedIn. And so we can look at what they're doing, gathering opinion, conducting research, whether it's a first, second, or third opinion, because this is an iterative process. People are engaged and having impressions from different organizations who are branding, who are advertising over and over again. No different from television advertising. We know that already. But what we want to do is focus in on which of the platforms is garnishing more of the activities. First impression, building a relationship, doing some comparison, finding out what their friends' opinions are on a specific organization, a program, a cause. I want to throw out some definitions here. We're going to talk about two types of social media. We're going to talk about the commercial social media, and we're also going to talk about a house social network, which is a private social media platform, a community. And some of you may be with organizations who already have that. You have some kind of internal portal for your members. Does anyone in this audience have their own internal social media platform? Not one. So this is a new concept, but I'll remind you that it's really not a new concept, because if you are interacting in an annual conference, right? If you are interacting in any kind of quarterly meetings, ongoing training with your membership, you in fact already have a live version of what we're talking about here. When we talk about a commercial social network, that's of course going to be the three that I mentioned before. And I want you to be able to differentiate between these two. HSN, we'll call it from now on, and we'll talk about commercial media in the big three that we've been studying this entire day. Graphics may be a little bit hard to read, but I think this is where a lot of attention, every time I get a call from a nonprofit organization, chances are that conversation is steering towards fundraising. Anyone else in that same situation? And so we understand that it's important, but let's take a look at it. Master fundraisers here on the far side of the graph who are raising more than $100,000 on Facebook. Anyone in that category? $100,000 or more on an annual basis using Facebook. And then we have other categories, 1 to 5 million, all the way up to 250 million being raised in fundraising, and Facebook being an engine to facilitate that. Did you know that there's that kind of money to be had on these platforms? No? Are you interested in finding out how to get some of that? Absolutely. And so when we look at the top five, the ones that are used by nonprofits, we can see, of course, it's not a stretch that Facebook is number one, followed by Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Flickr. And what I'm referring to in these next few slides is the third annual Nonprofit Social Network Benchmark Report. Everyone in this room should have this free report. And I've given you the reference on there, nonprofitsocialnetworksurvey.com. You go there, you can download this report, read through it, because what they did is they interviewed over 11,000 nonprofit professionals, nonprofit organizations, and they asked them about their practices, their strategies, and the results that they're getting using these platforms. So I think it's a very credible source. And when we look and we contrast and compare the resourcing that's happening, because I think there are some questions in this part of the room, is, how are we going to do all of this? We have a small staff. Is that a valid question? Well, I can tell you, and I can share with you from the statistics, again, in the category of budget, you have to have some money. Now, a lot of the tools are free, yes, but it's understood that you must budget appropriately for the labor and sometimes for the software in terms of upgrades, or perhaps what we're seeing is convergence. And that is platforms coming together, whatever you use in your organization for member management, now that coming together with the social platforms and also going mobile. So we're going to have to spend some money, and we can see how much of the budget in those organizations that were interviewed is being spent on commercial social networks, again, the big three, versus in-house social networks. So this is customized software. It's important for us to understand that. The majority of those organizations, zero, no budget. Would it correlate that those people with no budget probably are not getting the millions of dollars that are available? So we understand that we need to move over into the investment, and we also need to provide some resourcing. And you can see the sweet spot here is 1 to 4 full-time equivalent people. 1 to 4 full-time equivalents. Now, whether they are being paid or whether they are volunteers, it still equates to what, audience? Talk back to me. 1 to 4 full-time equivalents in order for you to have significant presence that is going to return some kind of benefit. So keep those numbers in mind.
I'm a big believer in the power of we. It's time for you to raise your hand. Go to serve.gov and get involved in something you believe in.
We weren't born to follow.
Are you with me?
Now we talk about individual fundraising on commercial social networks. Again, we can see them there. The majority of organizations are not using these tools, even though the research and the information available says this is how you're going to deal with the down economy, and you're going to offset the general consensus that people are just not giving as much as they have in prior times. The evidence shows that. But as we move across here, we can see that there is some hope for us to take advantage of what we know. The fact that we're not doing it today doesn't dictate that some activity over time and commitment over time is going to prevent us from being successful in fundraising using social networking. And then we look at, well, what are they using social networking for? The most popular is program delivery, meaning that they're communicating outbound about their brands and about their different causes, marketing, creating some awareness, driving people to take some action. Customer support, that's a surprising one, but you would be surprised if that you have members and your members interact with you. One of the most cost-effective ways for them to get help is using social media as the customer support platform, and link that to whatever other customer support systems and technology you have. Fundraising, almost last, and market research. So there's a shift that we need to understand. Certainly, Facebook will continue to be the dominant platform, but my job today is to open your eyes and show you why LinkedIn is probably your second most desirable environment for you to be active in, for you to invest resources in. What makes me qualified to stand before you? I'll just share with you very briefly. How many people here are familiar with the concept of ranking? If you're on LinkedIn, a handful of people. But if I ask you if you're familiar with the concept of search engine optimization, SEO, how many hands go up? Mostly everyone, right? Ranking is equivalent to search engine optimization, meaning that if you have a presence on LinkedIn, preferably everyone in the room has an account on LinkedIn. If you don't, that's going to be the first thing you do coming out of this training. Your profile on LinkedIn allows you to be found in your current role, whatever that is, whether you're an executive in the organization, you're a board member, you're a practitioner in a very focused occupation, your profile allows you to be found amongst the other 100 million LinkedIn users. And the key is being easy to be found. There's a lot of benefit. And so before I understood this, I was on LinkedIn for several years. 2007 is actually when I got on. I did absolutely nothing besides signing up. Sound familiar? A friend of mine, in fact, a mentor, invited me to lunch and said, Jerome, I need to talk to you. He said, on LinkedIn, you are a 0. He hurt my feelings. I said, Marvin, what are you talking about? He said, your profile is incomplete. You're not active. He said, understand this. And here's what changed my entire perspective. He said, I introduced 2 people on LinkedIn, the CEO of Culligan Water Systems and an engineer who had a patent. That introduction resulted in a $40 million transaction. I said, Marvin, I'm a believer. What do I need to do? Because I didn't understand the power of that kind of transaction on LinkedIn. And so I got busy. From 2007 to 2009, I spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars paying people to understand how to be better at LinkedIn and how to monetize it. Spend tens of thousands of hours. And the result is what you're looking at. So my primary service, what I do is a technology, a CRM technology, happens to be number 1, owned by Oracle Corporation. You all know Oracle, right? It's called Siebel. I'm a Siebel consultant. That's what people know me for, and that's what I want to be found for on LinkedIn. And there are 36,000 other people who also are practitioners with that specific platform. Now, before I optimize, when anyone's put that key phrase on LinkedIn, I didn't show up at all. But after I optimized, I showed up as number 1. Number 1 out of 36,000 other people. The other service that I offer is project management. I'm a project manager for those large corporations. 4 million other LinkedIn users have project managers somewhere in their profile, and so I wasn't showing up. I now show up as number 4 out of 4 million. Now, what happened was I started appearing in searches because people were looking for those 2 phrases, those 2 skill sets. And as a result of appearing in 11,000 searches, 730 other LinkedIn users actually came to my profile. It'd be the equivalent if you have a brick and mortar business on a busy street, how many people actually pull into your driveway and show up at your reception area and say, I want to talk with you, I want to engage with you. My network grew significantly from 500 now to over 2,300 direct connections. And so I share that with you to start painting a picture of what is possible in 2 years. Recommendations was mentioned early on by Aaron. Recommendations are huge. It's a collaborative behavior on LinkedIn, and it very much falls into the philosophy of giver's gain, the way that we talk about it, the way that we advise our clients. So you can see I've given 57 recommendations, and out of all of my connections, 38 of them or 40 of them by now have recommended me. Here's what started happening as a result of being more findable and more attractive on LinkedIn. I was able to generate almost $300,000 in additional consulting revenue people finding me after search, contacted me and saying, Jerome Leonard, how much do I need to pay you to help me with this business problem, a CRM problem? Pipeline of 603,000 created. People who want to do business with me, we simply are putting it off on a later day on the calendar. And so significant results. Let me ask you, how would your day change if every single time you open up your mailbox, there were 3 to 5 opportunities in there for whoever it is you're looking for? Would it change? Absolutely. A lot of joy in my household. I won't spend much time on this slide, but I think one of the previous presenters talked about your online friends being virtual, not a real person. As a matter of fact, it was Richard, that the large companies are creating virtual entities that will connect, have more connections than we do. So the takeaway here is we're all real people with real relationships. It behooves you to connect with as many people as possible. And so let's go into it. LinkedIn's mission, we can see, connect the world's professionals, make them more productive, more successful. I think if I ask every single person, that's a pretty good goal, right? We all can support that. Growing tremendously. I mean, every single time you meet someone, either you're going to ask them, are you on LinkedIn? Or they're going to say to you, let's connect on LinkedIn. It is the #1 business platform, bar none. A lot of collaboration going on. Richard was talking about some of this from the media standpoint. I'm going to talk about it from the strategic, the tactical, what you can do today. If you have a free LinkedIn account, you can do this today without spending an additional penny. Anyone interested in that? Absolutely. So let's go. What is it that you want to do? What is your strategy? Are you looking for key relationships amongst business decision makers, sponsors, influential people in your community, organizations that have a congruent mission to yours, that you could perhaps now engage in a mentor-protege kind of relationship? All of those are available on LinkedIn. How can LinkedIn help me? Certainly building community. Through the collaboration, through your personal network, and then being able to build a company profile, your nonprofit profile page, and basically doing the same kind of activities that we've heard. Posting messages, synchronizing your tweets so that your tweets appear on LinkedIn as well. This is a platform that people are going to make buying decisions. And so the more active you are, potentially the more attractive you are. Amplify your message, public relations. The search engine allows you to zero in on specifically who it is that you're searching for right now to help your cause. Your profile is your storefront. Your profile is the foundation for your LinkedIn presence. And so what we always advise our clients to do is make sure that your profile is 100% completed. It's attainable. Every single person in the room right now has the ability today, in a matter of minutes or hours, to get your profile to 100% completion. And it's important to do that because for a number of reasons. We're going to be able to use that 100% profile to now establish our company. If we're the founder, the CEO of a nonprofit, LinkedIn won't allow you to create that company profile unless your profile, your personal profile, is complete first. Everyone with me? So that's a key takeaway. Now, what are the impacts of having a complete profile? It's bolded there. Users with complete profiles are 40 times more likely to receive opportunities. Are we interested in capturing opportunities? A complete profile is the conduit, it's the pathway to receive 40 times more opportunities than if our profile was not completed. I'm going to move through this very quickly, but I'm going to leave time at the end because these are very actionable concepts that I'm talking about. I think you'll be able to grasp them and will certainly make the information available afterwards. So let's talk about your dashboard. And I'll be the first one to admit it. The user interface for most of the social media platforms out there, to me, is just too busy. It's overwhelming. It's too much information. But we have to learn how to get over that. I'm constantly frustrated by Facebook because just when I learn where something is, what do? They change it, right? I would ask you to reserve your frustration and continue working through that because they're going to change it constantly. And so what we want to focus on is not necessarily clicking through in the how-tos, but the why-tos. Why it is important for us to go into our homepage in LinkedIn on some frequency, see the number of searches that we've appeared in. That's going to appear under the paid advertising. That's where your gold mine is. That's where your opportunities are. Absolutely post, tell your network what you're doing, stick with meaningful posts. And as Richard said, there are specific times of the week and times of the day where you're going to get the maximum exposure because that's when they have the statistics that show this is when users are on. The majority of users are checking their LinkedIn page on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Monday, people are getting back from the weekend. Thursday and Friday, they're thinking about the next weekend or perhaps out. And so we need to understand that those are the most effective times for us to message, to collaborate with our audience.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Facing a change of status can be confusing for any service member. Call to active duty, relocation, discharge, retirement, they all have their challenges. Hello? But when a service member is also receiving mental health treatment, the challenges multiply. How do I get started with my new care provider? What support services will be available in my new location? Who can I turn to in an emergency? The In Transition program can answer these and many other questions. Service members in the program receive a personal coach who can offer access to important resources and encourage the service member to start and stay on track with their new provider. All of which helps maintain continuity of care when the service member may need it most. So, if you or someone you know needs a little help navigating the maze, visit www.health.mil/intransition or call 800-424-7877 in the U.S.
I got a feeling.
Plenty of applications that we can use, but here is what changed everything for me and our clients. We trained over 400 people on how to optimize their LinkedIn by using the keywords to improve your hit ratio. So it's exactly the same concept in search engine optimization. When we Google electronics or we Google a specific book, millions of results are going to be returned. But how many of those results do we actually focus on and give attention by clicking? probably the first 5, right? We don't go beyond the first, second, third pages. So the same concept applies here, is that whatever it is that you do, whatever it is you offer, you want to appear at the top of the list when someone is searching for it. And LinkedIn allows you to populate your keywords and key phrases in the specialties area. This is part of your profile. It appears directly after your summary. So your summary is telling everybody what you do. Your specialties are where you enter your keywords and key phrases. Now, we advise a lot of people, a lot of executives, and what we find in specialties, because LinkedIn doesn't make this obvious, are complete sentences, paragraphs, soliloquies, haiku, thesis. See, the specialties area is not meant for human beings. It's meant for the search engine. And so what you want there are short phrases and keywords separated by commas. That's it. By doing this, you're on the path to improving your ranking, to appear at the top of the list. And we all know what happens when you appear at the top of the list, correct? So that should be a good goal coming out of this, optimizing our profile. Now, once we start doing this process, and there's a whole methodology that we train people on how to do it, how to test it. This area, who's viewed my profile? You know, whenever text appears in blue, that means that you can drill into it and see some more information. Well, that's where you'll see the people who actually visited your profile. And when someone appears there, they came to your profile, I contact them. And I say, hi, John. I noticed you visited my profile recently. How can I help you? 10 times out of 10, John or Jane will say, I came to your profile because you showed up in a search, and I see that you're number 1 at what I need. How much do I need to pay you to help me? Would that be a good thing for anyone in this room? Absolutely it would be. Recommendations are not only good from the standpoint of edifying the people in your network, recognizing them, praising them. This is Washington, D.C. We don't have a lot of good things being said in the media generally, but recommendations serve as a tiebreaker in your ranking. What do I mean by that? Let's say you and someone else, your profile is almost identical. You have the same amount of experience. You have the similar type of keywords. Your profiles are complete. The person who has received more recommendations will appear higher on the list. So LinkedIn's search algorithm takes into consideration recommendations and gives you a higher ranking and weights those recommendations as this must be someone who the community, their customers, their coworkers, their colleagues are validating. And that's why we say it's third-party validation, which equals credibility. Now, some important guidance, because LinkedIn, as part of your profile completion, you have to give recommendations and you have to receive recommendations. You have to get 3. LinkedIn allows you to ask people for recommendations. It's right there. Go and ask for recommendations. We don't believe that it's a good idea, and we advise our clients not to. And this is why. It's human nature. When you ask someone to recommend you, even though there's a valid business reason, you've done some good work for them. By human nature, that person may feel a little uncomfortable because you've asked them to do something for you, and in public. And so we don't want to create that unintentional strain in your relationship. So we advise our clients to first recommend that person that you would like to recommend you. Why? Because when they accept your recommendation, LinkedIn automatically asks them to return the favor and recommend you. So you never put yourself in that uncomfortable situation. Imagine you ask someone who is your manager, your director, to recommend you, and they're busy, they're traveling, and days go by, maybe weeks go by, they haven't written a recommendation, and now you're hounding them to get your recommendation. That may get you on the call ID block list. We don't want that to happen. And so the much better strategy, the etiquette here is first give. And not everyone who you recommend will return the favor and recommend you. I think you can see that I recommended more people who have recommended me, but that's okay. So we want you to understand that. We want you to apply that. Collaboration. Man, Richard shared so many great points. I was writing down, getting all the information about automating some of this because we don't have a lot of time. I spend probably 10 to 15 minutes per day on LinkedIn. But those are very strategically placed moments that I'm on there interacting with my network, identifying opportunities, and then I'm moving on. And so while we can automate this, we cannot replace that interaction that is so key. Joining groups, posting our content for timeliness and linking it to something else that's going to speak to our audience. Recommending, no way to automate a recommendation. You have to write it. And so it is going to take some time. Allocate the time because this is going to make you so much more attractive on LinkedIn. For business development and locating key executives, anyone who's had to make a cold call, favorite activity, right? That's painful. LinkedIn eliminates this because you can find your decision makers and then you can connect with them. You can get all the information about the company. We used to pay thousands of dollars to Dun & Bradstreet and all these different databases. Now this information is available to us free. You can see the size of the organization. You can see who the executives are. And you can find ways to connect with those people through mutual connections or group membership, right? I'm moving through this very quickly. LinkedIn search engine is simply tremendous. If you've used it, you'll be smiling right now because you're able to use filters to drill down on all kinds of attributes, industry, relationship, language, how many recommendations they have, what are they interested in, when did they join. You can save your search for your target profile, the person who truly is going to be sympathetic to your cause. And then every day, just like Google has an ability to save a search and run it every day for you, LinkedIn has the ability for you to save that search right here and have that search return the results because new users are joining every day for those people who meet the specific criteria that you've defined. So your pipeline is never empty. Every single day with the saved search, you're having it filled with people, new people who meet your criteria. If that's not enough to get you excited, I don't know what is. Because when I found that out, I said, wow. Now I go in, I look at the contacts information. I mean, the profile, when it's completed, tells me where they went to school, where they worked, what kind of organizations they belong to, what kind of volunteer experiences they have. And so I feel that I'm building rapport with this individual, and since they're connected with me, naturally, I want to have a conversation with them, and then I want to have a face-to-face meeting if possible. They have the same ability to look at my profile. So by the time we sit down together, there's synergy that's created. The relationship is warm, one that now, from my perspective, I can understand how I'm going to help that person, and perhaps they want to reciprocate by helping me. You can save profiles. This is with the paid version. I don't know, anyone in the room have the paid version of LinkedIn? I upgraded. It was reluctant. The reason why they flashed that banner and said, hey, try the paid version, 30 days free. Jerome Leonard likes free. I tried it, I liked it, and because I was able to generate some revenue, I kept it. And so you can save profiles out of the million people who are on there, the millions and millions of people, so that you go back to that person easily, quickly, and you remember them to follow up. Expertise in terms of answers. On LinkedIn, there's questions and answers. And so in the public domain and in groups, we can pose a question. I do this quite often. I'm helping a customer. I run across a problem that is beyond Jerome Leonard's expertise. But because I'm in groups with practitioners, the same technology, higher levels of expertise, they've faced this kind of problem, I can pose the question in a way where I don't have to give the customer's name and I don't have to give details, but now I have a group of experts all over the globe who are returning their best advice to me. Now, as a person, a user who's posted a question, you have a week where you can close that question. And at the end of that week, out of all of the responses that have been received, you can choose, you can designate the best answer. What it does is that it allows someone to demonstrate expertise. Because if you have consistently given the best answer in a particular category, your expertise, when the media, when all of the newspapers, the cable, all of these folks are looking for who can we bring as a subject matter expert in this area, and they've demonstrated it, they go to LinkedIn. They want you to write an article. They want you to be a panelist. They want you to speak. So that's the power of it, both ways. So the questions and the answers that are coming through, now I turn around and I take the best answer, I help my customer, I get paid, and I keep moving. When someone asks a question that I feel, hey, I can answer, I can help that person, now I can get designated as an expert. Very powerful feature for those of you who have a certain depth of knowledge. You've established yourself as an authority for what you do. You definitely want to take advantage of experts and expertise and answers. So we're at the end of our presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions. I know I went through this very quickly, but I'll allow you to really think about your own experience in LinkedIn, using LinkedIn, where you are right now, where you want to be. The profile tips that are most common is, number one, edit and complete your profile, right? Whatever percentage it is right now, commit to getting it to 100%. Include a photo. Key. Why? Because people will relate to you better if they know you, they trust you, and they like you. We are visually oriented people. So not having a photo on your LinkedIn profile is the equivalent of inviting someone into a business transaction at midnight in a dark alley while you're wearing a ski mask, holding a shotgun. It's a little hard for them to have trust in you. Have a photo that's smiling, a current one, not one 20 years ago. They may think that's your son or daughter. And I tell people, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't have to be a professional photograph, but it should be a headshot. If it's too far away, you're standing on a mountain holding your fist up. Unless you show up at Starbucks on that same mountain, people may not recognize you. I think I've belabored that point. Your professional summary, two schools of thought there. Some people write their professional summary in first person. I am Fred Douglass. I do this. My career has spanned over. Very personal. Other people write their profile in third person voice, right? So Mr. Douglass has been a financial services professional, nonprofit professional for X amount of years. And it's spoken as if a professional writer wrote it for you. So there is no right or wrong, but what I would say is your name is at the top of the profile. They know it's you. It's your profile. So I would say probably depending on your industry, go with the third person voice throughout your summary and throughout your profile. Okay? Keywords and skills. We talked about how valuable that is. And truly, that's where the rubber meets the road. How will you differentiate yourself from the other users on LinkedIn, especially the ones who are in a similar kind of industry, career, providing those services, right? And keywords and optimization of your profile is the way to differentiate and distinguish yourself from the millions of other users so that you are found. Assuming that you want to be found, good things happen after that point. Your contact settings, some people unintentionally have made it difficult for interested parties to engage with them. I have my email and my phone number on my profile because I want people to use it. I'm open to connecting with people. And so if you go down to the end of your profile, you'll see that there's a space there for you to include information. I do not recommend putting your complete birth date and birth year for identity theft reasons. I do see this, and it's because the person didn't know. We see this across all the social media platforms, on Facebook, LinkedIn, different type of demographics, right? Facebook, there are minors on there. So that privacy issue will always be something that Facebook tries to hold at a high level because there are minors. There are no minors on LinkedIn. It's not intended for 13, 14-year-olds. And that's why LinkedIn allows you to see who has visited your profile. You can never get that on Facebook. You can engage with people through your fan page, and we've heard that, group pages. You know who you are engaged with. You can target them that way, but they have to opt in, as opposed to here, seeing everyone who visits your profile, seeing the kind of analytics in terms of how many times you've appeared in a search. Your profile website links, we talked about that convergence, where it's really not about social media, it's about understanding where your audience is and then tailoring your communication to what their preference, whether it's an iPad, an iPhone, a smartphone, wherever they choose to consume information, that's where you want to be. So you can position any website link, your blog, your corporate website, some other page, promotional page. And then LinkedIn provides free applications. One of them is called Slideshare. Slideshare is a way for you to post PowerPoint, PDFs, insert video in there so that it's so much easier for you to communicate your messages as your message evolves in time. So Slideshare is an application that you can subscribe to and then post as frequently as you'd like those kinds of different files for your community, the people you're connected with, to see, to download, to take some call to action because you've made the information available. Your public profile is what shows up when you're Google. If you Google yourself right now and you have a Facebook page or LinkedIn page, you'll get a public version, a shorter version of the profile. And in your public profile, there's a URL that points to it. You can customize that. LinkedIn provides some random letters and numbers, but you can actually make it your name if it's available. So you can just rattle off to people, hey, this is how you find me on LinkedIn. You can include it in all of your information. I encourage you to grow your network. Not everyone wants a large network, but certainly maximize it in terms of people that you've worked with in the past, people you have good relationships, because you can use your existing network to build the network that you want globally. Anywhere in the world that professionals are getting on this platform who may have an interest in your message, you can connect with them. And then get recommendations is our last point. Having strong recommendations, good news travels fast, bad news travels faster. And so we always advise people that the recommendation is a snapshot in time. You never want to stop getting new members, new donors. And so it's perfectly fine to recommend your donors. They gave you money. Why not say something nice about them? Your board members, anyone that you are collaborating with in your normal course of business to create success, you should be recommending. And so this is not a technology or a feature issue. This is really, are you the kind of person who has no issue whatsoever speaking positively about someone else? Yes, sir.
I've been on LinkedIn for some while, and I've started using it more and more over time. And I've tried actually to contact people in my field to ask questions. And I've noticed that, first of all, when you want to contact somebody, they ask on LinkedIn how you know them. Are they a friend, relative, business acquaintance?
Absolutely.
And then when I've contacted these people with my question, generally they don't want to have anything to do with me. In many cases, they don't want to have anything to do with me or don't respond to me. What is it? How do you seek information from other people on LinkedIn? You're talking about searching for people. How do you get the response from strangers? I haven't been able to do that with strangers on LinkedIn.
Okay, great question. So the etiquette is when you are engaging, just like in active world, with someone that you don't know, it's very, very wise to find someone in common. So on LinkedIn, it will show you perhaps a first level or second level connection that you have in common, right? So let's say if you know Charles, and Charles knows Monica, and you want to get to know Monica, but you don't know her now, you can ask Charles to introduce you to Monica. So the etiquette is, let me find someone that has a mutual interest in looking out for my well-being and can vouch for you. Is Austin a good person? Or is he a spammer or a crook? The same thing that applies in our active world applies on LinkedIn. So if you have an appearance sometimes of simply wanting to take from the community rather than give, or rather than using the etiquette, then people don't respond. People are busy. But there has to be something there that says, well, I can just call Charles and ask him. I can use the application on LinkedIn to introduce me to Monica. Monica can see, well, I know Charles. Charles is a great guy, so yeah, I'll accept that introduction request from Charles to get to know you. Does that answer your question?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't figured out how it works.
Try it. It works. Absolutely.
LinkedIn for people in business to business or consultants, it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
But working for a nonprofit, let's say you're working for a group, you have a passion for working with people who have multiple sclerosis,
Mm-hmm.
or you're working with the homeless or something.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a little bit maybe more ambiguous about the value from the connection. So I guess my question is, and maybe it's others might, I'd be happy to hear from them privately. What value do you get? What are you trying to accomplish with some of these connections? What are you offering them? What are they offering you? That kind of thing. Does that make sense?
No, that's a perfect question and very appropriate. In nonprofit mindset, sometimes we don't see the value of being in a business environment like LinkedIn. But I promise you, the majority of companies on LinkedIn, whether they're publicly held, multinationals, regional, national, local companies, it comes down to a person. There's owners, there's senior management, there's HR directors, and they all have some level of interest in community and causes. And so for every nonprofit person in here, hear me well, it is your responsibility to use this platform and identify where those most probable supporters are. You can do that a number of ways. You can go to groups and search on the group name for a keyword, multiple sclerosis, and you'll find groups. Because there are vendors, there are physicians, there are researchers, there's all of these organizations who are tied to that specific topic. And you now connect with those people. Government and nonprofits go hand in hand, right? So there are enablers on this platform that you simply need to, one, be findable. If you're looking for multiple sclerosis, here I am. I'm easy to find. Then engage. Does that answer your question? Good. Time to wrap up? Okay, thank you so much. It's been a privilege and an honor. Thank you.